10, 9, 8, 7, 6, Q, 4, 9, 3, 10, 6, 4, 1. Alright, and here we are again, trying to do another practice stream where I just practice talking into a mic since I'm not accustomed to talking to myself. This one, I didn't even pick a topic. It's going to be completely stream of consciousness, so it's going to be as unstructured and rambly as my mind is generally, which is probably quite. So I would suggest that you probably don't want to watch this because it's going to be a giant mess. But I suppose you can't learn things until you just, do them, try them, get into it in order to learn how it works, what you do that works and what you do that will fail, and the best fucking goddamn way to do that is to do it under pressure. So here we go. Okay, I guess I will try to just randomly pick some topic off the top of my head, and I guess we'll talk about the shutdown. BBC suggested the shutdown, and I guess that's something I can start with. Alright, so as I'm sure most everybody who would be watching this but shouldn't be watching this knows, that there was a government shutdown from Christmas to the beginning of this month. Over funding the border wall, Trump initially he wanted $25 billion for his border wall, and then he settled for $5.7 billion for steel slats. The Democrats don't want to give him this perceived win at all because they're absolutely hoping that when it gets back down to 2020, they can do what they did with George H.W. Bush and say he said no new taxes, and there was taxes, so obviously you can't trust him, which pissed off a whole lot of people and made it so I guess people just didn't believe him. They want to deprive Trump of this of his ability to say that he got a wall done too. So they know that their absolute best chance is to make him look weak and ineffective, even though they know he's not weak and ineffective because he's done a whole lot more than any other president has in the last 50 fucking perhaps even 100 years. But they still want that because they know that it's something that their media spin machine can latch onto and grind and spin and manipulate in order to make it so that they have a better chance at winning whoever it is that decides to run in amongst the candidate of fucking 30 to 60 criminals. I guess since it is free form. Speaking of that, on that topic, just to diverge just a moment. I think that I'm not going to guess at who's going to win. The Democratic nomination process is just too far out, too many variables. I also think that not even close to as many people as will be throwing their hat in have thrown their hat in. I think that it's going to be somewhere around 60 because, again, they think that they know that Trump is giving them trouble, but a lot of them think that they can be the one that can overcome it if, just everybody gets behind them and the media will spin behind them and so on all that stuff. And also, you get the added benefit in that if you're running for a national office, and especially the president, you get certain perks from the election commissions and the investigatory agencies that make it so that there are certain things that they can't do to you when they're investigating you, and likewise, they're not supposed to do certain kinds of investigations, 60 to 30 days before an election. I think what that will allow them to do is, if Trump really does start going after the criminal cabal that's been running both parties, but is particularly embedded within the Democrat, in that 99% of Democrats are completely in on it. If he does start getting rid of those cocksuckers, just start throwing them out of government and, actually bringing the power of the government back to the people and how it's supposed to be followed, if we had still followed what the founders suggested when they created the Constitution, created this country, and etc. and so forth. So because we didn't follow any of that stuff, we have a bunch of jerk-ass, corrupt, useless pricks that are just running around trying to enrich themselves and gain power for themselves and grow the government rather than do anything that would at all benefit their fucking constituents. And from that, you get, it's the usual, a whole bunch of play-to-play, a whole bunch of skimming from this to that, from this government program to that initiative to that overseas donation, etc. and so forth. They all fucking... They get paid off by lobbyists, various different kinds of ways via the pay and play thing, and so the whole goddamn kit and caboodle is corrupt. They've basically brought in corporatism or soft socialism, and that's basically what's running the government because we didn't listen to the founders. We didn't do any of the things that they suggested. We just let it all go and let everybody just assume that, yes, the government should be able to have all this power and control over you, and your natural rights, which again are not granted by the Constitution, but are just guaranteed by the Constitution and recognized by the Constitution as being natural, given by whatever your creator is, if you believe that's God or gods or the divine ethical principles or just randomness of nature itself with the Big Bang and eventually swirling cosmic dust and gas swirling around and eventually forming the Earth and eventually forming the chemical constituents that made you. Rather than give one rat's ass about trying to restrain government and make it so that humans can establish and express their natural rights and do basically whatever it is they want to do with just the basic restrictions that you have to have in order to have a society function, which is not stealing, enforced contract, no killing, etc., and so forth. But anyway, so I think that at least 60 Democrats are going to be running in for the nomination for 2020, and I think the majority of them are going to be doing so simply to try to avoid being investigated. Obviously, not all of them will make it all the way into that process, but it certainly will help if they're, have some media sympathy and some potential protection for themselves. But anyway, so there was that stupid shutdown where once it was obvious that Pelosi was going on vacation and trying to go on fact-finding tours and all that sort of thing, that she didn't give a rat's ass, she didn't care. She knew that the media will easily and happily try to spin it in order to push for her favor to say that was Trump shut down, and the Democrats are right for trying to hold out and not build a wall. And so Trump did give in order to reopen the government on that temporary deal and give the government workers their pay and their back pay, since they were about to miss 2 paychecks. I wasn't happy about that at the time, and likewise, I just knew that eventually we would be back here again. So another shutdown is looming. There is a potential deal on the table, but Trump basically, he didn't exactly say that he wouldn't take it, but I hope that he doesn't, because it's a stupid deal. And he did say that he wouldn't be likely to take it, using the code word of less beds for ICE, meaning more catch and release and more bullshit amnesty, so more illegals. If he does that deal, then he's going back on the thing that he said at the rally in El Paso yesterday. So I kind of doubt he's going to do it, but hopefully he doesn't. But regardless. So, they decided to end the shutdown for 15 days to fund government and give all the government workers their back pay, and then bring it up, either get a deal, or if necessary, bring it up again when that 15 days is up, and shut down the government again and go to the same stalemate in order to get a wall. Now, we already all know that Trump has the capacity to declare it a national emergency, even though the courts will try to stop him. It obviously doesn't mean that they can. Once the government or the military is out doing things, it's not like a court order is going to exactly be enough to stop them when there's an executive order to do it, since they kind of follow the executive. Likewise, another way that Trump could build the wall without the Congress's help, which really just means the House giving them a bill which will pass the Senate and the President can vote on, and will be enough to convince enough Democrats to come over and vote with the Republicans to invoke cloture. That stupid 60 vote threshold. Anyway, so he could just declare a national emergency, not give a rat's ass what the court says about it until the building is underway, and get it done that way. Even though that would be a messy way to do it, it's probably going to be the way it's going to be done eventually anyway. And to me, it looked like they just wasted Trump looking like he caved and 15 more days of nothing but grandstanding and media spin to be back in the same situation where he was before. So what he probably should have done, and when I was hoping he might do this when he did eventually give in for the shutdown and reopen it for that 15 days, was wait a week and then declare it a national emergency when no one was expecting it, to try to jump up on how fast they would be able to use the courts and try to stop it, but to just get going, start getting it done, just to go, because we voted for him because he would be strong and fight, not so he could be weak and make deals with criminals we don't want him making deals with. I don't want him making deals with the Democrats. Anytime you get something that's bipartisan or a deal with the Democrats and the rhinos, basically the Democrats get 90% of what they want, the rhinos get 60% of what they want, and the actual, genuine patriotic Americans get nothing, because it just throws more money away to more stupid, useless, worthless programs, more stupid, useless, worthless people, and just ad infinitum and complete the cycle. So I don't want him working with the same people, because every time you work with the same people in the past, it just backfires and they get what they want and get nothing what you want. That's what apparently politics is now, is just letting the worst among all of the politicians, which is already a bad fucking spate of the population anyway, get exactly what they want. No, we're done with those fucking stupid deals. Don't make deals. Don't even think about talking deals. Don't pussyfoot around it, just say, fuck the whole lot of you, and declare a national emergency. Another way he could try to do it is try to move money around in Homeland Security, because he has some leeway in how money is spent there, so he could try to move $5 billion from this or that over and put it somewhere in Homeland Security in order to start building portions of the wall, but it would be less effective than the national emergency and using the Corps of Engineers. And it would probably be less money still, because you can pretty much just use as much money as you want for the military option. Or he can have Mitch McConnell grow some balls and get rid of that whole Senate Rule 22 60-vote cloture thing and bring the normal functions of government that you have to be able to use every day back to a simple majority as it was intended when the fucking Constitution was written. I don't know which one of those we're going into, but it seems like this whole last 15 days, even though it's been pretty good for Trump and bad for the Democrats, it has been a waste of time. He should have just already declared the national emergency rather than go into it. Now, there are things that are swirling around, rumors saying that there was a reason for it, to set up the optics and to demonstrate and prove that the Democrats are not interested in any variety of border control, that every time that they say they are, they're lying, and that they keep moving the goalpost back in order to not justify building any kind of wall or fence by adding extra stupid nonsense that they know that Trump's base will never go for, like giving the DACA illegals amnesty so that Florida and Texas turns blue and Democrats are elected in perpetuity. Or any other measures of stupidity you could get from any aspect of this stupid fucking useless nonsense. So, in my opinion, again, I'm wondering, why did he just wait 15 days for this? Why didn't he just do it? So, apparently it was set at that optics thing, but again, I'm not particularly convinced from that, and anymore, since it has been apparently delayed ever since Reagan gave the 1986 amnesty in exchange for the promise the Democrats would fund a border wall. I just don't trust anybody's going to fucking get it done until I see it getting it done. I guess you're just cynical about that, but there's good goddamn reason to be cynical about it. I'm not exactly sure how the Democrats are going to react to it, but I know that they don't want to actually give them any ins or outs on this wall thing. I don't know if this proposed deal would be enough that the Democrats would okay it, that the Senate would okay it, and that Trump would sign it. But again, I hope not. The only thing that the Democrats have to do to win is for Trump to just say yes to any of this, or for them to say yes to Trump's other proposals with the DACA illegals and all that stupid nonsense. Trump's, in my opinion, his best move is just to be as aggressive and forceful as possible, and then just go full national emergency, full declaration if we have to build a wall because of this caravan, and etc. and so forth, all of those things. The media will do what it would do anyway. It doesn't matter what you do. They're going to do exactly the same thing. I guess you just hope that this optics thing did convince enough normies that the media is full of dog shit and etc. and so forth, where, in fact, if they didn't know that by now, they're never going to be able to figure it out. So I don't think this changed anyone's minds or anyone's side. The people that were inclined to agree with the Democrats and media, they think the same thing. The people that were inclined to agree with Trump and his base and the right, where I already think their thing, the normies are just going wherever it is that they're going, and usually just whatever Facebook decides to distract them into looking at today. I don't think any of that fucking dumb optics shit is worth it, or worth it going to work. I think just being strong is enough optics in and of itself. But he won the presidency and I didn't, and he seems to know what he's doing, so let's hope, I guess, that keeps up. Alright, if I had to hazard a guess, the Democrats would do that court case thing where they'll go judge shopping. I'm sure they already have plenty of judges picked out, where they'll go to a few different circuits, like the 9th and the 4th, and start, maybe the 5th, or whoever it is, and start, try to get an injunction on Trump building a wall, declaring a national emergency, moving money around Homeland Security, or doing anything with a wall whatsoever. Provided that Trump decides to either to ignore or follow that obviously bullshit court order injunction, I guess will depend on whether or not he thinks they can get to the Supreme Court quick enough for them to have a verdict on it within a day or two, because I'd imagine the Supreme Court will rule will rule sensibly that Trump has the capacity to do the national emergency thing. Congress granted him that power when they decided to give away their various varieties of war powers because they're a bunch of stupid, useless idiots, and didn't want to actually make any decisions with which they could be held accountable. They just wanted to be able to spew fucking ridiculous platitudes and grow government in order to say that they're doing something to show their constituency that it's worth voting for them, so they can continue this $97,000 a year job, which actually, when you get the hidden gifts, the PACs, and the skimming involved is probably like a $5 million a year job. It's got to be some way that Maxine Waters made her money, or fucking Nancy Pelosi made her money. What they're doing. Mitch McConnell made his money. Well, I guess regardless of whatever it is, let's hope that Trump just ignores whatever the Democrats do, and they just, have a tissy fit. They freak themselves out. They work themselves up into a crazed frenzy. They get their stupid, useful idiot pawns in Antifa and others, and BAM and other immigrant organizations, and they run around doing stupid nonsense, breaking things, so that they continue to make the whole stupid thing look bad, and then maybe that will be enough to start yellow vesting it in America, and something will actually start happening. Wouldn't hold my breath, though, because, again, we've been waiting for it for quite a while. Used to politicians failing and fucking us, and especially corrupt politicians doing everything they can to get in the way of anything that would be common sense or useful to keep a functioning society. So, I guess, with the shutdown, way to summarize it, we knew we were going to be back here again. Why did we both go through this to begin with? Fucking build a goddamn wall. Alright, I guess now that that's out of the way, I have to keep Stream of Consciousness talking and talk about some other thing. I do actually have some other thing to say about that. Like, since fucking Alexandria Occasional Cortex is still in the goddamn news and still being obsessively discussed by not only the left, the friendly left media, the corporate left media, which is pretending to like her, the centrist media is just following the lefty, and the corporate media's Pied Piper fucking dulcet tones. The conservative media and the independent types on the internet still talk about it too, because likewise the media is talking about it, and there's a whole bunch of things going on. Now, I've heard a lot of arguments saying that you should ignore her, and if you ignore her, you'll lose her media power, and she'll go away, and it won't be a problem. Which is normally that is the right way to do things, especially the right way to do things with trolls. But it won't work this time with Occasional Cortex, because it's not the right that's keeping her in the news. It's the left. It's the left in the corporate media. They keep going. They did the same thing with Obama. You thought you could ignore Obama. You thought you could, and he would go away. But because of the way the media pushed him and the way the political establishment pushed him, he became the fucking president. You can't ignore Cortez just because they're going to push her anyway, so you're going to have to find ways of contrasting and contradicting the things that she says. So just ignoring her is not the right thing to do. Other people say that you have to ignore because just like Trump getting all this extra negative attention, meme him into the White House, you don't want to meme her into the White House. It's true you don't, but this is a different circumstance, because it wasn't the media that memed Trump into the White House, it was the internet. The internet memed Trump into the White House, the media didn't, because the left can't meme. This is not the same circumstance at all, because the internet was memeing Trump, memeing for the purposes of spreading propaganda for Trump, whereas the media trying to meme for the purposes of spreading Occasional Cortex won't be enough to convince the normies that she's good. It will be provided that you actually fight against her. If you don't say anything against her, it will be enough. So it's just the opposite. You have to actually talk about Occasional Cortex. You have to point out the stupid things that she does. You have to contradict the media lies about her, and you have to keep up the ridicule game, because what she's doing is using her natural charms, and she's not. It's really obvious and overt that she's not an intelligent person, but she doesn't have to be. Most politicians aren't intelligent. They don't teach you to be a good politician by being intelligent. They teach you just to say and look to say the right things, to look a certain way. She's still like a novice on it, because she's still, a useful idiot rather than an actual mover and shaker. But now she seems to be starting to learn the game. She could actually become something. And that's the real danger. The real danger is the neoliberal corporatists and neocons and the general uniparty and media collusion game. If they actually teach her how to not say stupid things, she could be a serious force to be reckoned with. If they reel her in, teach her how to apply her already natural charms that already work on a lot of people into working on the normies in large, because she doesn't sound so stupid, she could become powerful. Which is why you have to keep up the ridicule game. They are using different varieties of Alinsky, just like they did with Barack Obama, and you have to use counter-Alinsky to shut it down. They're using propaganda, you have to use counter-propaganda to shut it down. And memes is absolutely one way of doing that without any problem. And once again, since the left can't meme, you already have the capacity to win that. You just have to keep talking about her, keep smashing her, and keep ridiculing her so that the normies think she's a joke and don't believe her. And so, I want to talk about her charms for a moment. So a lot of people don't understand what I mean by the charms. Like, a lot of people think, oh, so you think that she's hot, or, you know, that she's good at speaking or any of that stuff. Well, whatever it is that you want to do, since being attractive is absolutely in the eye of the beholder, it just follows a general set of trends, but those trends come with as many variations and variables as there are individuals in the world. Therefore, that's why everyone has a taste. Some people will think she's attractive, some people won't. It won't matter. Her trends, her actual charms are deeper. Those fucking giant eyes, it's just the same reason that, you know, all baby animals, puppies, and humans have giant eyes, why cartoons have giant eyes when they want to look cute. It triggers a circuit in a lot of people when they see it, and it just makes it so that kind of brain wants to be endured to the way that thing looks. So she has that portion going for her, and that works on something like 15% of the population. Like, they just see that and they like her. The way she talks, where she's kind of, you know, airheaded and girly, but really genuine, like, appears that she's trying to be genuinely helpful and nice, is another thing that's working on a whole bunch of different people for exactly the same kind of reason, because their brains are wired in a certain way for that shit to work on them. So she's applying all these different little things about her that work on this group or work on that group, and is swirling it up and putting it out in basically a concise, even if erratic and totally incoherent package. And it's working on people, not because she makes sense, but because their brains are just happen to be encoded for the way her charms work to work on them. That's why you have to keep the fucking fight up and keep ridiculing her, because the way to counteract that kind of charm is to make people think that somebody is worthless, useless, and stupid. It's the way that you take away that kind of ingrained, built-in affection for those kinds of for physical and personal characteristics. So on that note, even though I'm tired of her, I'm so sick and tired of talking about her generally, what's going on here. This portion of it is more of a meta thing. It's about the things that are working with her, the ways that she could be harnessed by the neoliberals and be actually dangerous, and the way that you counter both of those two things. So rather than just be stupid, obsessively obsessed with her, think about the tactics that it will take to counter her and then to defeat her. And those tactics are basically just keep really killing all the stupid things that she says. So I guess that's my take on that. Going a little bit more into what the neoliberals could do if they could mold her into, you know, a more controlled politician. So if they start buying her off, the money's... This usually works on people. They go to fucking Washington, D.C. thinking that their Mr. Smith goes to Washington, and they always end up becoming, you know, everybody else that's corrupt there. The money is too good. The principles are just not there with people anymore. Most people aren't even taught, you know, what the people on screen created for them. These things that they fucking worked hard and bled and died and fought for. Built up, put so much fucking thinking into. We just don't have the capacity to appreciate it. And at least the people that aren't being taught about it, at least the people that don't think about it, that are told that these, you know, that they're all just a bunch of evil racists, and therefore you should discount and discard everything that they think and everything that they did in order to piss away your own fucking culture and your own history and replace it with whatever the social constructionist fucking Trotskyists decided that this is what they're going to be doing today. And that, I think, is the next step. So you counter that stupid occasional cortex and Gillibrand and fucking Harris and Clinton and all those fucking types of idiots with ridicule to show that the things that they say are stupid, the things that they say don't make any sense, and like when you average out the stupid things they say and the stupid things that don't make sense, there's absolutely no way of denying that they're very, very fucking stupid people. And then you give them a counter example of the ideas nested in freedom and liberty and the Constitution and the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers and Locke and Montesquieu and all those, and the good portions of Hegel. It's John Stuart Mill, all those sorts of things, in order to actually give them some kind of contrast to say, no, this is how human nature seems to work. Therefore, this is how you have to consider the way the the way you model reality without the assumptions that you can just socially construct your way into utopia. It's not going to work. There's no such thing as utopia. Human nature absolutely and actually is built to stop and break away from that kind of contrast. If you could build a perfectly controlled society, our ancestors would have figured it out long ago, and we would have evolved into falling for it. No, it's the necessity for having those different variables involved in all of the genomes that make it so that whatever environmental switches and changes that you run into, the variables make your system, your society, or your organisms wildly variant enough that they can adapt. There's potential that they can adapt there. The best way to deal with a changing environment is just to have every goddamn meal on the table and see what tastes the best in this circumstance. I think that's part of the reason why some things like antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, those sorts of things would have evolved from an evolutionary psychology standpoint. In that, the real reason that they probably evolved is the people that would display those kinds of genetic markers and then experiences which would give them those kinds of expressed disorders, depending on whatever it is, whatever their genetics are and whatever environment they find themselves in, would be more likely to be able to procreate for whatever reason that they can garner. Like sociopaths and psychopaths and those likes, there's, it would be really easy for them to muscle their way into taking control of a tribe or a group or any of those sorts of things. So it's they're not afraid of things. There's not that very many things stopping them except for morals, which they don't really have any. So it makes sense that they would be able to evolve because they would be able to outcompete. It's just like, in some ways, a restricted natural advantage over other ways, but only in certain kinds of environments. If you're too tyrannical, the tribe's going to turn on you and cut your fucking head off. And histrionic people, maybe they were able to coax people into giving them food and therefore living a nice life, and then therefore having themselves high in the social status and becoming a good mate and passing on those traits that made it so they would be likely to have the genetic markers that would give them histrionic personality disorder and all of the other ones. I think those are the real reasons those